Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 89 of Cognitive. Your comments are very welcome, so you can comment on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, or you can go to our group on Ravelry. In the meantime, in the warm thanks department, wow, Karen S., thank you for the incredibly generous coffee. That wasn't just a cup of coffee. You basically bought me a 5-gallon keg of coffee, and I really, really appreciate that. That was very, very kind. I'm moving a little fast again this week because it's been so eventful, so I'm just going to say that the typical COVID stuff is on the blog page, and you can certainly see where to get your vaccination card from California, the electronic card, and also where to get your free test from the government. What is on my hooks and needles? Well, I am boring. I am supposed to be finishing the Sunnybank Love Scarf, but it is up at the house, and I am in a hotel because of recent events that I will explain. No, we're all okay. I'm just sort of stuck away from home. This also has paralyzed the Don't Know Yet, my crocheted blocks project, although it made it over to the side of my bed last night, so I'm hoping to get some of that done. In the meantime, I am working at last on the midsummer socks that are just quietly celebrating by sitting on the floor next to my feet. I will say, though, I did get the Sunnybank Love Scarf blocked, and you know what that did? Dead flat nothing. The scarf has a seed stitch edging, 5 stitches deep, with then I think 33 stockinette stitches. Let me tell you, it's a pretty scarf, but it curls. And it's curling no matter what you do. Maybe if it was wool or more wool, it would have blocked out better, but it's not. I'm using a cashmere acrylic nylon blend that has been sitting in my stash for years. So, that love scarf pattern from Noro, everybody on the page complains that it curls even after blocking. I've learned my lesson. But you can enjoy the picture of the curly version pre-blocked, which looks just like the post-blocked version at this point, and also the picture of all the cat litter and yarn bins trying to block it, trying to weigh down the edges, and dried like that for 48 hours did not work. Meantime, I'm having some fantasies. I was roving through my old photos and found in order a beautiful picture of the yarns I want to use for my Comfort Fade Cardi, and these are from Dizzy Blonde Studios. If you'd really like to see a bunch of DK weight yarns from Dizzy Blondes, you will know why I buy their yarn. By the way, my favorite resources are listed as always in the show notes. A strategy. Well, I am living one this week, and the strategy is, what is change? This is a part of radical acceptance, but this is the part that applies to emotional management. When you are working on emotional management strategies, you're working on the strategies we use to get through our day-to-day life, and when we use these properly, they stop us from having crises. So the idea is, if I exercise every day a little bit, that will reduce my anxiety. If my anxiety is reduced, then I do not face crises that require me to use distress tolerance strategies, right? So we're now in the emotional management part of the discussion of strategies. So I'm talking about what are the things you do every day to keep yourself from getting in distress, from having crises. Now, part of that, though, is based on a logic that comes out of radical acceptance, which is I am who I am. I got here through a long process of getting here. So it might take some time for me to change. And so one of the big fails we see in psychotherapy is people want instant change, that we are really conditioned by Western culture, but at this point, all I have validity in saying is American culture, United States of America, American culture, that change should be fast and instant. You should be able to see it right away. So we have this logic of the breakthrough. And boy, you learn this as a therapist, where you have a great session with a patient and you think that's it, they got it, now they're changed. And you find out the next week, not really. They had a breakthrough, but can they retain it? And what I'm really saying is change is not fast. Change is small, it is incremental, and it is gradual. So you have to learn when you're trying to change yourself by using strategies, this might take time, and you have to be patient with yourself. And if at first you don't succeed, you're going to try again. When we go to therapy, we say, I'll go in, and the insurance companies promote this. They go, okay, you've just had a major accident. We'll give you psychotherapy to help your mental health, 5 sessions. So you sit there and you go, 5 sessions. You're clinically depressed. Now, I can make some headway with you if you want to in 5 sessions, sure. But they're really just saying 5 hours with me fixes a major car accident in which you saw your whole life flash before you and thought you were going to die. I'm pretty good. I don't know if I'm that good. Or you've been spending your whole life biting your nails, and there's something I'm going to do in 5 hours? Well, maybe. I can use hypnosis. Will it last forever? Maybe. But the idea is these things take persistence. They take time. You have to keep working at them. And this is where we struggle in therapy, because patients come in and they've got this insta-change attitude. And the idea is, no, I'm going to teach you a skill. And you have to use your skills every day. You have to practice your skills. And so you're going to hear that when I get to the blather and I talk about the skills I've been practicing this week. But you have to realize that there isn't a goalpost, that you cross this goalpost and now you have mindfulness and you don't need to ever work at it again, or now you have control of your temper and you don't need to work at it again. That all change is small, incremental, and gradual, and you need to keep practicing these things. So when we talk about emotional management strategies, we're really talking about the 4 basics. Eat correctly, sleep sufficiently, exercise enough for who you are and where you are in life, and practice focus meditation every day. And there isn't a time where you achieve this and it's over and it's done. So you have to live with the reality that humans require practice and maintenance. We don't just change and now it's fixed and now it's over, that we are machines and the machine has to be maintained constantly. One way to do it is the radical acceptance that if I succeed at making a change, I'm going to have to keep practicing. It isn't going to stick unless I work at it. And it's going to be small changes, a little bit at a time, gradually. Having said that, I could go on and on about distress tolerance this week, but instead I will tell you that I did finish The Emperor's Aeronaut. We're in the Fluffy Books by Adina and Scott. And it's fun and it's cute. It's Shelley Adina, not quite in her usual form, not quite as good, although there are definite moments where you know you're reading a Shelley Adina novel. I do not know Ms. Scott, who also co-authored this, but it's okay. It's okay. It's interesting. It's okay. I enjoyed it. There's a sequel now out, and I will read it and I'll let you know. Haven't touched Introduction to American Deaf Culture because that's sitting at home and I'm in a hotel right now. But I did restart the Finishing School series by Gail Carriger. These are hilarious. Carriger wrote The Parasol Protectorate. The first book of it, Soulless, was a bestseller. And that's how I bumped into Gail Carriger. And then she goes into the characters' later lives, and eventually she goes backwards and goes into the lives of the generation before them. And that's where Finishing School happens. You meet one character, Genevieve, who's just Vive or Viev, depending on how you pronounce it, in this series, and she's a little girl in this series. And the other characters from the Parasol Protectorate, You're going to hear of vaguely as things progress, but you don't hear of them right away. But finishing school is just a hilarious premise, and it is, when they say finishing, they don't mean debutantes being finished in learning the cultural graces. They mean finishing people off. And it's people from the upper crust, girls from the upper crust, learning to be conspirators or intriguers, spies, as you will, assassins. It's very witty. It's very funny. You just have to read it. I quite like it. The first book in the series is Etiquette and Espionage. And I'm on the second book now. I'm listening to them on Audible, and I am on Curtsies and Conspiracies. And they're just delightful. You actually grow to like even the nasty characters, as often happens in a Carriger book. It's a lot of fun. It's just kind of girl power, feminism running around in the Victorian age, I believe, at this point. It's a good introduction to Carriger's world. You can read it before you read the Parasol series. You can read it after. You'll still get the jokes. Something I really like, oh boy, Adobe Scan for my iPhone. Adobe Scan. There used to be a lot of free, cheap apps, like badly made apps for phones to scan. And you used to have to pay for Adobe. Adobe finally threw in the towel, recognizing that we all now can scan on our phones, and decided that if they became our friends and put out a good app, we would all use their more expensive apps later. So somewhere in all this, years ago, I went from a homemade guy tinkering in his basement app to Adobe Scan on my iPhone. I have to tell you, after my camera, this is the most useful thing on my iPhone. Yes, my phone isn't even that useful for talking to people. I'm not kidding. I use my camera intensively, and I use Scan. Scan is, every time we get a receipt, if I think it's going to be anything to do with my income taxes, I scan it and I save it. Eventually, I make it into a PDF, and I send it over to my Remarkable, and I file it in my PDF folder for this year's taxes. I will scan all sorts of things. If I see information I want to remember, instead of taking a picture, I will often just scan it, depending on which one I think will come out better based on lighting situation. I will often take a photo and later make it a PDF using different apps. But a lot of times I'll just go right into Scan and I will scan the image. So you're standing in a hotel and you see a brochure for something you might want to see. I will pick it up and just scan it. You see a printout of a pattern. Like I'll go to Joann Fabrics and they'll have a free pattern. And instead of taking the piece of paper off the pad of the free pattern that's hanging next to yarn they're trying to sell with it, I'll just scan the thing. Now, no, I don't go into books and scan illegally or all that. If I own the book, I will scan a pattern and save it because it's easier to carry as a single page on my scanner than it is to haul the whole book around. So often I am to be found looking at my phone for a pattern I'm working on because I scanned in the chart or whatever. It is an awfully handy thing to have a scanner on your phone. And you might be thinking, well, why don't you just take a picture of the pattern? Yeah, I could. I tend to get better imagery out of the scanning. There are different reasons to take a photo and different reasons to scan. Usually when I'm scanning, it's because I'm going to store it long-term as a PDF on the Remarkable system in my PDF dedicated piece of technology, the Remarkable. But I have to say, apart from the fact I'm now getting a message I didn't need, I have to say that I would recommend that if you're not using a scanner on your phone, Adobe has it, it's free, keep it around. When you get a receipt and you don't want to carry paper around, you can scan it and then save it as a PDF to your income tax, and it's easier. You can't change it, nobody can modify it. Can you do a picture and do the same thing? Yeah, I think PDFs take less space. And I think for text, they work better for me than photos. But there you go. You want a handy-dandy app, and we're using it like crazy right now because, did I mention we're in a hotel? And I'll get to why. In a minute. Put a lid on it. Well, I think I told you I got into a blue space a couple weeks ago, about 10 days ago, and just went out and bought a heap o' meat that I just decided that I wanted to go fill the freezer. So I went to various places like Aldi and Trader Joe's, and I just bought a lot of cuts of meat that I like. My husband is lousy at this. If you leave him alone, he buys pork loin and chicken breasts, and that's not really the happy hunting ground for those of us who are keto. I need fat, guys, saturated fat. Well, the nice thing is now that I've just been taking out a hunk of meat and throwing it in the Instant Pot and cooking it, and then we've been devouring it in our various locations. So I thought I would remind you, if you have doggies, go get yourself a pork shoulder with the bone in. These are not as common on the ground as they used to be, but we found them. I found them at Walmart. I was going through Walmart, which is not my favorite place to shop, I'll be honest, but I just happened to go down the meat aisle, and there were all these bone-in pork shoulders. You take that, you cut it into pieces that fit in your Instant Pot, if they don't already. You want the bone because that's where you're going to get the broth. Okay, so I throw in a jar of keto barbecue sauce and a cup or a can, depending on what I have around, of Diet Coke. And also I'll saute an onion in the Instant Pot. Then I'll saute the pork in butter with the onion in there. I'll saute each side of the pork for about 3 minutes. Then I throw in the barbecue sauce and the Coke, put the lid on it, and set it up for an hour. This makes the best pulled pork you'll ever eat. The fat melts. It's really marvelous. You just get this wonderful, thick, creamy kind of pork. But the really nice thing is if you have unhappy dogs, and we do right now, because we're away from home a lot right now, when all this is over, you take out the pork, you shred it, you use it for whatever you want to use pulled pork for, tacos or sandwiches or whatever. Meanwhile, you throw the bones back into all that juice, and I will also throw in any fat we didn't consume. And then you fill your Instant Pot with water. How many times have I told you this, right? And you set it for an hour, and you just let it cook. And of course, what's happening to the bones is all that lovely stuff in the marrow is leaching into the soup. So you're getting nice collagen and minerals in your soup. However, you're also getting bones that your dogs will go insane for. So when you're finished the hour cooking, I tend to just let it turn off and cool overnight in the pot. And then the next day I take it out, I ladle it into Tupperware. When your dogs feel abandoned, as mine do right now, you give them a ladle of the pork broth over their kibble, and they will try to forgive you for your abandonment. Did I mention we're in a hotel right now? Okay. It's a very strange place indeed. So that's what we've been doing. And it is surprising how even your puppy will forgive you enormously if you hand her a pork bone. Having said that, what are we really going for here? Well, it's great for their teeth and gums. These are hard bones. They're not like chicken bones. They don't splinter like chicken or turkey or poultry. And they have marrow. And getting the marrow out of the bone is a good exercise for a dog. It's like the original Kong. You know, those big rubber toys that you stuff with peanut butter? Well, this is what that's from. And you can give these to the dogs and they'll last a few hours. If you're going to give bones to a dog, do make sure you're keeping an eye on the dog. There are the odd moments. I've had bones get stuck in the hinge of my dog's jaws once or twice where you just reach in and push it out and they're fine. And with a puppy especially, you want to watch this just to make sure that they're not good at not choking themselves. So you want to make sure they don't actually choke or anything. I give our pup, Queenie, rather big pieces of bone because I don't want her biting it apart. I don't want it splintering. If the bone starts getting smaller or breaking, I will take it away from her and give it to the older dogs. Queenie is not a big fan of that plan. However, giving your dog the occasional pork bone is a really good thing to get the same things you're getting out of the pork bone, that is collagen and marrow and all sorts of minerals. So this week we've been doing the pork bone broth because I've been making pulled pork while we are going back and forth again. So why are we going back and forth, you might say? Well, I think it's time to do the blather. So on to the blather. I've been rushing a bit because I thought I had another patient and they canceled last minute arg. But that's okay. Let me get on to the blather. Well, the easy stuff. My American Sign Language classes are still on beginning August 22nd, so sooner or later I've got to go look up how that exactly happens over Zoom. But I'm kind of interested. Well, the pup date, Queenie and Captain, I have pictures of them hanging out together. They have become the sisterhood. that it's very sweet because Captain is convinced that she's going to now raise Queenie. As it turns out this week, that is a very good thing, that Queenie has the big sister and that they are doing well together, but they like to do things together, including eat and chew bones. The thing I have learned this week is when I put food out for the 3 dog girls, that's including Blankets, our very elderly German Shepherd, nobody will eat in a bowl if Queenie wants it first. So Queenie goes to a bowl and the other 2 will get out of the bowl so that she can have it to herself. I find it very charming that the 2 adult dogs are doing this for the puppy. Queenie was born May 10th, and as I record this, it is Wednesday, August 3rd. So she is coming up on 12 weeks now. She's about 11 weeks. And she is growing like the proverbial weed. But she is having some gastric upset, I think because it's been stressful for her not having us around. But nonetheless, the girls are together. There is a lovely picture of Blankets enjoying a pork bone. She's in her crate because I'm trying to make the other 2 leave her alone so she can have the pork bone. If Queenie goes up to her, she will give it to Queenie, but Queenie is right next to her there eating pork broth and kibble out of a bowl. So there's also a picture of Queenie and Captain lying a good 12 feet apart on the back patio because they each have bones. And again, I'm trying to let Captain get a bone without her feeling she has to sacrifice it for Queenie. So we have this lovely kind of sisterhood among the dogs right now. And that is going very nicely, if I do say so myself. But you say, why? Why? Well, because my husband blew a retina. It's a very weird thing. He had surgery, you may remember, to replace his lenses because he had cataracts. And when they do cataract surgery, they now just replace the lens. They can replace it with a clear lens or with a specialized lens that matches your visual prescription. We went that route for the husband, but it doesn't really matter because it gets you to the same place. No glasses, great vision, except 1 in every who knows how many thousand people. Well, their retina doesn't like the pressure change and all that from messing with the lens. So Saturday evening, after I was finished seeing patients, my husband said to me, well, there's news, with this look that just, I knew something was off. And he said, I'm probably losing a retina. Well, as it turned out, his retina was slowly detaching from the rest of his eyeball. That is a rare side effect of the cataract surgery. He wasn't sure of it till Saturday, and then he immediately called the doctor. They scheduled him for, yes, Sunday, but he couldn't do anything about it, so he waited till I was finished seeing patients Saturday night. We went out to our usual Mexican dinner celebration, and he said, okay, we got to go in tomorrow. Well, what they did was great. They did laser surgery on him on the spot. The doctor said, I'm going to stabilize. You've got a tear in your retina. It's heading from the top to the bottom. I'm going to stabilize it with laser surgery. And then you have to come in tomorrow and let one of the opticians on the regular rotation on a Monday look at it and see if more needs to be done. What this has resulted in is every day my husband has to go to these retina people and they have to look at his retinas because they injected gas into his eyeball, yes they did, to press the retina back into place against the back of the eye. But now he has a gas bubble in his eye. By the way, no screaming. They do numb things and you don't want me to describe it, you really don't. But it's not painful, it's just weird. So anyway, he goes in and every day they laser his eye a little bit more, saying, nope, there's damage there, we'll laser it. Whoops, it's bleeding, we'll laser that too. It's kind of like they're stapling his retina back into place. Weirdly, he sees just fine, that this isn't damaging his sight. Weirdly. His eye has gone back and forth looking a little bloodshot, but really it's been pretty amazing. So every day I get up and I am at the farm. And I drive down to the hotel. Why is he at a hotel? Because he can't have an altitude change because he's got a bubble in his eye that has to stay in a certain location. It's very weird. He has to tilt his head to the side to keep it there. When he's conscious, he has to sleep sitting upright. So I'm at the farm at night. I go down. with my computers. I set them up to see my patients. I take my son over to the community center where they have a great teen program. Then I drive my husband down from the Santa Clarita Valley to the San Fernando Valley. He goes and they do this lasering stuff on him. And I wait around. And then I come back. And today we had to change that. My husband's driving himself. As long as he doesn't have altitude changes, he's okay. And he can drive now, so he's okay with that, with sunglasses. And he comes back. And then we pick up our kid, and then we all hug and kiss and eat what food we have. And then I have to go back to the farm, but my husband isn't allowed to climb the 3,000 feet altitude to our farm. So he and our son are staying in the hotel. That way my son can swim in the swimming pool and is happy. And they're working on homeschooling and homework together. I go back to the farm. I feed everybody. I make sure everything's okay. I just ordered hay. I check everybody's water. The dogs are frantic to see me. And I feed everybody. And again, this is why they're getting pork bones and pork broth, because we're trying to be really nice to them because they're having hard lives right now. And they're lonely. On the other hand, we're finally getting more success with housebreaking. Queenie was totally not figuring out housebreaking, but now she's just forming the habit of going outside. So we might have had one mistake last night, a little bit of pee, I'm not sure. That was pee or water from me carrying broth or water from me walking outside to water the animals. Anyway, but Queenie is learning that outside is where you do your business, whether she likes it or not. So that's been going well. So I go home, I do cooking, I bring food down to the boys any way I can. And I also did a whole lot of grocery shopping yesterday. And last night when I got home, we realized I had to come back here to work, to the hotel where I'm sitting now. It's okay. So I went home and I had cooked the pulled pork all day long. In the Instant Pot, I took that out, let it cool, took the pork out, shredded it, put the bones and fat in with water, made pork broth. So tonight when I go home, there will be bones for everybody. But meanwhile, this morning I took the broth out and it was cooled and I put it in Tupperware. So everybody gets bone broth, and then we will have pork bones tonight when I'm home to supervise to make sure everybody's okay. Minerva is not even talking to me. She was, but last night it was, okay, I don't know what you're doing, but you're going away, and those two guys, they're not even here, so I'm on my own. So Minerva's kind of politely ignoring me. She's not really angry at me, but she's not spending a lot of time with me either. She's kind of cold-hearted. But today was nice, because today, for the first day, I'm seeing patients again. Yesterday, we couldn't arrange it. I couldn't see patients, so I took some sick time and took the hubs down again. And I have to say, too, I'm developing a lot of weird habits, but when I'm home, I go home, I make some kind of food. I will feed everybody, all the dogs and the livestock, that is the pony and the alpaca, who, by the way, is doing just fine. And then I check all the water, and then I have to do a total shower because I've been out in hay, which I'm wildly allergic to. So I have to wash my hair and do a shower. And then all the dogs come in to spend the night indoors. Blankets goes under my bed. Queenie and Captain are in their side-by-side crates in the dining room area where they're fine. I usually give them a chewy bone or something to entertain them overnight. And I will do minor cleaning around the house and then pass out. I get up early in the morning, I do all my clerical and mail and all that stuff at home, and then I get in the car and I drive down here. The car gets handed off to the True Love. This is a break. Meanwhile, there's been the weird karmic stuff going on. If you look in the pictures, you will see some of it. One thing, there's a picture of a beautiful tile wreath of flowers. That's in the floor of the elevator in this building in Encino. Man, you know you're at conspicuous consumption when an elevator floor is decorated this well. But I also started feeling bad for myself because for 3 days in a row, I was at these appointments. My husband would be gone 2 to 4 hours, and I'm trying to kill time. And he says, well, you have to stay in the waiting room because he's really nervous about not having me around if he needs me at arm's length, you know. So I did as much of that as I could. But the universe gave me a few missions. So what day was it? Monday. I couldn't take it. The building is very dark inside, despite windows on the outside. And so I go outside, and I realize, oh no, the meter might be running out. And I look at the meter, and I realize finally how to work it with the credit card. and it's cheap. It's 2 hours for $2. It's not that expensive, and they limit you to 2 hours. But I don't know if there's any meter person going around watching, and the cars don't seem to be marked in any way to show they've been there more than 2 hours. Okay, so I'm walking back, and I see the meter next to me has 6 minutes. So I just stick my credit card in it, and I pay $2 and give it 2 hours. And then I realize, what the heck? So I go up the block, and I just refill everybody's meter. I have to admit, I just felt like this is a lousy day. And all these people are parked in front of a medical building. They're having lousy days. Everybody should have a better day. So I'm just walking down the street, filling meters, hoping that no cop sees this or gets upset. Because American cops will actually fine you in some places if they catch you filling a meter in for someone else. Can you believe that? So I'm filling in all these meters. Well, karma pays off because I realized a while later I had forgotten my meter totally. I get down there, it's flashing red. Nobody caught it. I filled it. So I felt like karmic payback right there. So then the next day, I get another mission from the universe. I am parking the car. I let my husband off. I park behind a meter that actually can't be used. So I realize that I read the meter and it says, no, it's only for restaurant food pickup. All right. I look down on the ground. There's a Chase ATM card, a bank ATM card on the ground. And I look at it, it's not my name, and I look around, there's nobody, so I pick it up. And I read this guy's name, and I thought, this guy must be frantic. So I just try to call the number on the back of the card to report the card. Well, no. Chase, you have to enter not only the card number, but the PIN, which I don't know. And so I'm so disgusted. So I say, well, all right, then I'll just turn it into a Chase Bank, because this guy must be frantic. So it takes me a while to find one. I go up the road, there's a Chase. And so I walk in, and they actually tell me I have to stand in line to do this. I stand in line, I wait, I see an executive come by. I know she's an executive because she's wearing a $1,000 silk suit, beautiful silk scarf, and she's carrying all this catering food to her desk where there's nobody sitting. So I walk up and I say, do you work here? And she snorts at me. And I say, okay, found this on the road, wanted to turn it in. I hand it to her and I walk away. I walk outside, I think, wow, because this takes me like an hour to do. I look around, I see a sign, L'Atelier, and I'm like, L'Atelier? I thought that was a famous yarn store in LA. It is. I'm standing in front of a yarn store. So, of course, I went in. Oh, my God, their yarn is gorgeous. If I get a chance, I'll go back and review them. But anyway, they had beautiful yarn. I mean, they had skeins of yarn for $200. I'm not kidding you. Cashmere, of course. But I look around and I see Malabrigo. It's their cheap yarn. And there is a beautiful skein of Mecha, which is their bulky weight single ply. Now, you know I'm only going to use that for a hat. I don't use single ply for anything else. But it's in beautiful greens and blues. And I think, I don't really have a pretty hat in those colors. Kind of, sort of. Well, maybe the Romuald hat. Well, anyway, I buy it. So $18 later, I'm in the car laughing, going, this is my karmic payback for returning this guy's bank card. So I pick up my husband and I tell him, and we realize we're also across the street from Gelson's Market, which has a seafood and poke bar where you can make your poke bowl for lunch from this bar. So we both go have these $20 poke bowls. What's great? No rice. I just put in ahi tuna, spiced and unspiced, and ponzu sauce and some shrimp. Oh, what a lunch it was. Anyway, from there we went back and we spent a couple nights over at the Residence Inn because it's a Marriott and I'm on the Marriott Frequent Flyer Club. But we moved to their cheaper neighbor, the Fairfield, which is still Marriott. So we are at the Fairfield with really questionable internet and everything else, and it is definitely the less expensive neighborhood. But we will be there until Friday the 5th at least, because this may go on for 11 days. And we are at day 3, apparently, by their count. Good news, Hubs went in today and they said no bleeding, they did no lasering, and he's able to check in tomorrow to see if that's holding. But there's still fluid behind his eyeball somehow, so he can't go the altitude change, he can't do it. So we are at the Fairfield for a while. So basically, I come down here every morning, see patients. We make sure my son gets to his program. My husband gets the car so he can drive across the valley or down to the San Fernando to see his doctor. And then we all have a meal together, and then I go back up the hill and I spend a lonely, tragic night in the house. But it's kind of nice because Well, I'm lonely up there, I'll be honest. And I'm tired. I'm finally getting onto a normal sleep schedule because basically I have to be up about 5 a.m. every morning for various reasons. So I'm going to bed about 9 o'clock or 8:30. But I get up there in very late afternoon, early evening, and I have time to myself. And so I got a lot of things done, like I'm getting our laundry done, and I got the kitchen cleaned up, and I've been making a lot of food, and I'm sort of making and vacuum sealing meals now, which is really pleasant to just do that and stick them in the freezer. So, pulled pork with vegetables and all that. And today I'm roasting a chicken in the Instant Pot because it was in the fridge and needed to be cooked somehow. But it's weird. I spend a little time making meals. I get all the animals fed and watered, including the livestock. And tonight I think I've reached the point where I can actually clean the bathrooms with nobody else around. And it's been nice. The house is kind of pleasantly clean and is slowly getting more organized. And it's sort of getting fumigated. Having a 16-year-old boy, not so good. So it's weird. I'm getting this weird time to putter. And I don't putter a lot. I do maybe an hour or two of cleaning and cooking. And I spend an hour getting the animals shipshape each morning and every night. And, I have to go do various clerical things to do with my job. And it's been pretty good. It isn't as bad as it sounds. Last night I finally got a good night's sleep. I fell asleep about 10 and I fell asleep about 10 and I woke up about 6:30 and actually had time because my husband's appointment wasn't until 11 or something that I got to actually take my time in the morning. I didn't have to start with patients here until 10 a.m. So, we had breakfast because it's got a free breakfast at the hotel, and I got Starbucks and I gassed up the car and all that. So it's not as bad as it could be, but it's a little bit disruptive. Now, Minerva's going to get the last word here. And her word is I'm back, which is to say I'm back as well. That Minerva was hiding out in the suite because of the puppy. She's now rehabitated the rest of the house. So she's back on her windowsill where she belongs. And to celebrate that, one day when I realized she was on the windowsill, I went out into the living room thinking I would leave her alone to enjoy her windowsill. And there was a tarantula sitting in the middle of the floor, completely black. So, of course, we now are kind of used to this after 20 years here. They do occasionally come in. Turns out it's a Mojave dwarf tarantula. We actually looked it up. And it had fangs. It's probably a female. Males don't usually come out until the autumn, and they just come out to look for the girls. But the females don't usually come out at all. They usually hang out in their tunnels and let things walk into their webbing at the mouth of the tunnel. So, what Aragog's sister was doing out here, I don't know. But if you'd like to see her, there she is next to a sock to give you some scale, next to my husband's sock. And yes, I have to say, it's not the kind of thing you step on accidentally. It's quite large, and you will notice it when it's on your floor. Minerva missed this. I'm really glad because my husband picked it up. We put a Tupperware over it, then you slide cardboard under it, then you flip it and put the Tupperware lid on it. Not too tightly, we don't want to kill her. Then you take her outdoors and set her loose in the wild. But my husband and son were both looking at her and they said, wow, she's got fangs, which is what makes us think she's a girl. So yes, we had Aragog's little sister and Minerva missed it, but Minerva gets the last word, which is, boy, we're glad she missed that. Well, so I'm going to see if there's any quality on this recording because I know I recorded that first half really fast, but that's life. In the meantime, please, everybody, it's been COVID quiet here. We've been wearing masks around. Not many people are. But, it's on the rise again, and we're just getting through it. I would also like to take this moment to say, apart from the COVID stuff, thank you to the state of Kansas. You know what I'm talking about with that vote to preserve the protection for abortions in your state constitution. Yeah, didn't see that one coming, did you, conservative people who want to get rid of abortion rules? Yeah, so hooray, Kansas, well done. In the meantime, please remember to socially distance, please wear your mask, please wash your hands, get your vaccines updated, get your kids their shots, because the whole point of this is everybody please stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.